Nothing gets me more pumped up than watching two giant monsters beat the piss out of one another on the big screen. Watching kaiju pummel the shit out of each other is something of a pastime of mine, given how enjoyable it is to see unfold. Whether it's dudes in rubber suits or CGI titans, nothing quite comes close to the borderline WWE shitfest that are monster fight movies. And in the modern age, what better place is there to watch monsters beat each other to death than in Legendary Pictures' Monsterverse? The Monsterverse is an Americanized retooling of giant monsters from Toho's Godzilla franchise, the titular character acting as the star of the show, and I don't think him or his co-star in this franchise, King Kong, really need much of an introduction given their status as cultural icons. Cultural icons who, in just 1 month's time, will be duking it out on the big screen in the aptly titled Godzilla vs. Kong. Yes folks, it's the rematch of the century, with that giant lizard sure to win this time because fuck you, he's cooler. But you see, it doesn't look like everyone aware of this upcoming SmackDown is also aware of pretty much everything that came before it. This is the Critical Drinker, a guy who rants about cape shit while also making other videos about pop culture popcorn flicks. And before any e-fappers try to start arcing strings of indisputable knowledge in the comments section, I do like the guy. His videos are short, funny, and to the point, and while they do end up becoming background noise for me after about 10 minutes, I still like his character and his deadpan humor surrounding the popular film industry, when he knows what he's talking about. Because when he made a video titled Godzilla vs. Kong trailer Hilarious Insanity, it felt more like a slow day on the editing bay than anything else, and I just can't help myself from making fun of him for it. But look, I know he's a pretty popular guy in the pseudosphere, so I just want to make it clear for all the kids out there. I like him, I just like my stupid lizard movies more. So let's sit back, relax, and see just what the drinker thinks about this upcoming Monster Mash.
What the fuck?
Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people and we don't know why.
Oh god, make it stop!
Oh boy, I can already tell where this is going, but I really do want to see it for myself.
Well, I have to hand it to Warner Brothers. They really don't give up when it comes to this Monsterverse shit, even though they probably should. I mean, Godzilla 2014 was a decent stab at reinvigorating a franchise that had been practically stomped into the ground by the god-awful 1998 movie.
So I don't mean to be a nitpicking asshole, but I'm going to do it anyway. Warner Bros. Has nothing to do with creative control of the Monsterverse. That shit's in Legendary Pictures' hands, seeing as they're the producers behind the film. And say what you will about Legendary originally being a co-production between Warner Bros. And Universal. These guys got bought out by the Chinese in 2016. So if anything, you may want to point the blame to a fuzzy little bear overseas. Though you are right about 1998 pretty much squashing the life out of the franchise. Well, for Americans at least.
The reboot delivered a surprisingly restrained take on the Godzilla story, to the point where you barely got to see the fucking thing for most of the film. Jesus, this isn't Jaws. People don't watch Godzilla movies to unravel some crazy mystery. They want spectacle and destruction. I mean, the film wasn't perfect by any means. The anti-nuclear sentiments of the Japanese movies had been completely abandoned.
Putting a pin in that last sentence for right now, but so far I can't say I disagree with much of what you're saying. So please, continue.
The origin for Godzilla and the other monsters was sketchy as fuck, and it completely wasted talented actors like Bryan Cranston and Ken Watanabe. Sure you don't want to do some more blank staring into the distance, Ken? But overall, it was a solid, undemanding kind of film where you could just put your brain into neutral and watch the pretty explosions while drooling into your popcorn.
Alright, so far so good. Seems we're both on the same page right now. I couldn't see how things could go south from here. Maybe I was wrong to even start writing this script.
Then they shat out Kong Skull Island, which was set in the 1970s and used as some kind of weird mashup of Moby Dick and the Vietnam War. It was awkward and pretentious as fuck. Kong was basically just a less interesting version of Godzilla, and it had a cast of about 200 people, none of whom had anything close to an arc.
Not sure how a pretty solid giant monkey movie could be pretentious. There didn't seem to be anything self-important about the film, let alone a message anywhere therein. I have to assume it's because the cinematography was good, but for the most part it was a campy reimagining of Kong that served to establish his place in the Monsterverse prior to his upcoming loss to Godzilla. As for the characters, I mean, maybe it's more just different perspectives, but I thought they filled their roles as well as they had to. But maybe we both went into this movie looking for different things. You went looking for a fleshed out cast of characters using a giant monster island as a backdrop for a more human story, and I went to watch a giant gorilla kick the shit out of some freaky looking lizards. But hey, I may have gotten what I wanted, but to each their own.
Jesus, even Brie Larson was in it. Then the series drove right off a fucking cliff with Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Remember how I criticised the first Godzilla for not having enough actual Godzilla in it? Well, they certainly put that right with this movie. It's basically a Royal Rumble, but with monsters instead of wrestlers.
Well, yes, it was. That's why people went to see it.
Featuring human antagonists with possibly the worst motivation in any film ever. God damn, how did they get Charles Dance to appear in this shit?
I mean, it's not like the human element of every Godzilla film has to be the most interesting thing in the world. Most of the time, it's just an excuse to get giant monsters to fight. At least that's what it felt like in a lot of the films after the first one. With a few exceptions, like Return of Godzilla and Shin Godzilla, of course.
And it ends with the surviving monsters literally bowing down to Godzilla because he's the king.
Well, yes, he's king of the monsters. Did you not read the title of the movie? Did you not see the conflict of the movie, where he and Ghidorah were beating the shit out of each other for their place on the proverbial throne? I don't know if you noticed this, but that was the whole point. And to be frank, it was kind of fucking awesome, if I do say so myself.
Which brings us at last to Godzilla vs. Kong, the logical endpoint of this batshit crazy franchise, where Kong has been recruited to take on Godzilla and save the world. And I have to be honest, if the trailer is anything to go by, this movie is gonna be absolute gold. It kicks off with your usual scenes of mass destruction, accompanied by heavy, ominous music, still desperately trying to make you think this is a film you should take seriously.
Given the way he's evolved over the decades, I highly doubt that anyone is taking Godzilla seriously. Hell, based on King of the Monsters, I think even Legendary was just trying to make the start of the trailer look cool because, well, again, that's what we're here for. It's a Godzilla movie. Outside of like 3 of them, they've all been about cool monster shit with a bare-bones human story to get us to where we want to go. That's kind of the charm of Godzilla, that no matter how good or bad the story of the film is, and no matter how serious or goofy he's portrayed, you can still kick back and watch monsters beat each other to death. I doubt the score here is trying to portray anything less.
And oh look, Kong's been abducted from his homeland and taken across the ocean to America in chains.
Are you serious?
I mean, there's on-the-nose writing, and then there's next-level stuff like this. I wonder who you're supposed to sympathize with here.
Wait a minute. You telling me we was Kongs and shit? Well, congratulations on finding the woke in the movie before anyone else could. Here we are, the simple dregs of society, thinking Kong in Chains is an homage to the 1933 original, but you have opened our eyes. A breathtaking revelation indeed.
Although it does make me question how useful Kong would actually be against something like Godzilla when he's not even strong enough to break out of his metal chains.
I mean, you just showed the little girl that can communicate with him. Maybe that might have something to do with him not wanting to escape, but who's to say, really?
Anyway, why exactly do they need Kong on their side? Well, it turns out that Godzilla's been up to no good recently.
Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people and we don't know why.
No fucking kidding, mate. He's Godzilla. Hurting people is kind of what he does.
You know, I'm starting to get an impression from this video. The impression that you aren't all that well-versed in Legendary's canon, which they've established in the last 3 fucking movies you just talked about. That Godzilla is a defender of Earth who brings balance to the kaiju world by making sure nobody deliberately fucks up the delicate balance between nature and man. You know, what was established in the first fucking movie and which was reaffirmed multiple times in his second bout. Like, dude, come on. If you're gonna go balls deep on the motivations of giant monsters, then at the very least read the Wikipedia summaries before turning on your mic.
I mean, Jesus, if you're the size of the fucking Empire State Building, it's basically impossible to go anywhere without killing people and destroying things. He's probably not even aware of things as small and insignificant as human beings.
Now, I'm not entirely sure about what I'm going to say, using these little things called context clues, trying to figure out what's going on. But I'm pretty sure the big thing here is that Godzilla is deliberately destroying cities for seemingly no reason, when he usually does things with some modicum of motivation. Hell, maybe that's just me playing too much of a detective here, who really knows? But I'm pretty sure the whole idea here is that it's out of the ordinary for him to be doing that. Well, hey, maybe I'm just crazy, looking into it too deep. Let's just keep going.
But anyway, let's just go with it. So they've captured Kong from Skull Island, and they're bringing him to America to lay the smackdown on Godzilla, because I guess he's totally supposed to know what to do when the time comes, and not just run away or turn against his human captors.
Well, there are those hints in the trailer about Godzilla and Kong having some unfinished rivalry, but I'm sure you'll be able to answer your own question a lot better than I can.
But it's okay, because the humans have a trick up their sleeve.
And this child She's the only one he'll communicate with.
Yup, because this is a modern movie, there always has to be a generic girl that's the key to everything. Seriously, this is a writing trope that needs to fucking die and never get resurrected.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't girl characters who can communicate with the monsters kind of a staple of some of these kaiju films? Take Mothra, for instance. She has the Shobijin who accompany her in pretty much every iteration she's been in. Hell, they even managed to sneak them into King of the Monsters. And they've been around since Mothra's debut way back in the 60s. But if you want to get closer to the Godzilla franchise, how about Miki Sagusa from the Heisei era of Godzilla films? Hell, she could even take control of him at some points in that series. Or if you want to just cut right to the source, let's just go right to the original King Kong. You know, beauty tames the beast, all that shit. Sure, they've reworked it to be some kid because Hollywood isn't even trying to hide it anymore, but a girl being associated with a giant monster has been a pretty solid mainstay for the last 80 years or so. Sure, the trope comes and goes, but it isn't that new to these kinds of films. If anything, I'd be shocked if there wasn't some girl showing up to talk with giant monsters. I'm thinking the Force being female may have fried your brain a little bit on this one. Though, to be honest, I can't really blame you.
But oh look, here's Godzilla to fuck things up, and that's when the insanity truly begins. I love how the trailer abandons the serious tone right away and goes straight into no fucks given territory. Yup, go ahead and shoot him with missiles, because that kind of thing has been super effective up until now.
Well, at least we can both agree that the humans in every Godzilla movie are fucking retarded.
I don't know if it's just me, but I was always more entertained by watching Godzilla flattening human cities and sinking warships, instead of awkwardly fighting against another monster. I mean, really, what can they actually do except punch each other repeatedly and maybe fall over once in a while? It's not exactly thrilling from a visual point of view, because it robs them of their sense of scale and power.
I mean, you do realize that Godzilla's whole shtick ever since the sequel has been beating the shit out of other monsters Toho comes up with, right? All it took was 5 months from the original to Godzilla Raids Again for him to start beating the crap out of other monsters. That's kind of why he's a cultural icon. And hey, we've all got our own personal preferences about Godzilla films, so maybe giant monsters fighting just isn't your thing. I get that. It's not like you have no idea that Godzilla's been a cultural icon for the last 60 years because of his rubber suit monster fights or anything.
Also, I could be wrong on this one, but I'm pretty sure Godzilla should be about twice the size of Kong at least. I mean, look at this shot of Kong from Skull Island, where he's holding a chopper in his hands. Then look at this picture of Godzilla from 2019. Notice how he's towering over an entire fucking city? Now they're conveniently the same size, so they can have an evenly matched battle, I guess. I mean, it's not like continuity, logic, and common sense particularly matters in films like this, but it would be nice if they had at least some idea of the scale of these things.
You did see the other films, right? I mean, sure, it wasn't a major plot point or anything, but this isn't a plot hole. We're not in Star Wars land anymore, where nothing's made sense since 1999. We're in Lizard Ape land, where things are relatively consistent, at least in the Monsterverse.
Also, I'd be willing to bet that Kong and Godzilla have to put aside their differences at some point and team up to take down an even bigger threat that emerges. Where have I seen this plot thread before?
Oh my god. Guys, Godzilla and Kong might team up, just like Moon Knight and Captain Marvel did in that one Cape Shit movie. I can see it already. Kong is standing over Godzilla, about to stab him with the spear the writers gave him so he'd have a better shot at winning. But then Godzilla opens his mouth and whispers into the darkness, "Mothra." Kong drops his spear and realizes they were on the same team the whole time. Complain all you want about the BVS vibes. That would be so bad it's Kino.
The problem you always have with movies like this is providing some kind of meaningful storyline for the human characters to follow when they're basically just ants in comparison to Godzilla and his mates. King of the Monsters tried to do it with Charles Dance and his bullshit plan to wipe out humanity, and here it looks like they're trying to build some kind of conspiracy around Monarch and the events of Skull Islands. Oh no, I wonder if someone is manipulating Godzilla into being evil now, and only a plucky band of young people can foil their plans.
What? Not everything he says here is wrong.
I mean, I guess you have to give Millie Bobby James Earl Jones Brown something to do, apart from sit against a wall crying, so there it is. You go, girl. Hope the paycheck was worth it.
Actually, come to think of it, why do Godzilla and Kong both have little girls on their sides?
I said at the start of this video that the rebooted Godzilla movies lost something when they changed the origin of their monster, and I think it's worth talking about here. The original Japanese movies came out in the aftermath of World War II, and they reflected a lot of the changes and upheavals the country was going through at the time. Godzilla represented Japan's grim experiences with nuclear weapons, and as a result, The movies had a pretty potent anti-war message. It was kinda smart for its time, to be honest.
Wait, hold on. Have you... No. I'm just jumping to conclusions here. There's no way that you don't know. He does know, right? He does know that pretty much every Godzilla movie after the original, outside a few already named exceptions, have nothing to do with the horrors of nuclear war, right? Drinker, you know that there have been a ton of crazy out there Godzilla films between 1954 and now that are part of their own canonical timelines, right? As someone who's seen all of them, I can pretty safely say that only a handful really tackle any modicum of a real grounded message in the form of giant monster battles. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Godzilla vs. Megalon didn't give me many nuclear war is bad vibes. Felt more like a Knight in the Ring to me. What next? You'll say the American films didn't have enough consistent overarching themes?
But times change, and now they're just all over the fucking place. The 2014 film tried to make some half-arsed statement about the dangers of nuclear power, and the sequel had some meaningless fluff about human overpopulation being the real threat to the planet, but their ideas were always muddled and buried under so much other shit that you had no idea what they were trying to say, or why.
Well, no shit. It's a Japanese property being remade for American audiences. The only thing Americans can think about is nuclear bad, environment good, because their programming doesn't extend farther beyond that. But regardless, at the end of the day, those were more backdrops as an excuse to watch giant monsters fight, which, again, isn't exclusive to American Godzilla. It's been happening with pretty good consistency over in Japan ever since the original King Kong vs. Godzilla came out, which I'm starting to get the impression you don't even know exists. Otherwise, why complain about the lack of messages now, in 2021, when that's been the case for about 50 fucking years? Jesus, I really do hope there isn't a gaping black hole of knowledge in what you're talking about, for your sake at least.
But if this trailer's anything to go by, they've basically abandoned any pretense of trying to say anything. Now it's just about making Big Lizard and Big Monkey go boom. And to be honest, I'm totally fine with that.
Wait, then what was the point of this whole video? I thought you were complaining about pretend slavery metaphors and women in your kaiju film while wishing we could go back to one of the few films in the franchise that ever tried to say anything. Have I been baited? Was this whole thing just an experiment to see who would be retarded enough to respond? Well, shit. You got me hook, line, and sinker.
If you lack the writing ability to weave a compelling human story with interesting characters into an epic disaster movie like this, then save us all the trouble and just don't bother. Ultimately, Godzilla vs. Kong looks a bit like Pacific Rim, but without the cool mech suits. It'll be big and dumb and loud and ridiculous, and probably won't ask much from its audience. The only question really is whether it's actually gonna be fun. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
And so ends the video, I guess. Why you felt the need to invalidate everything you said by just saying, it'll be dumb fun, so who cares, strikes me as, well, as the weirdest thing ever. Why say all of that about the movie, compare it to the original, and talk so much about the elements in the trailer you didn't like if you were just gonna say it didn't matter in the end? Well, shit, this is certainly an anomaly. The only tinfoil hat tier theory I can muster is that since you haven't made a whole video about Godzilla before, you couldn't really judge how your audience was going to react to it. So you went through it, said it would be a giant monster fight unlike the original movie, found the wokeness in it, and called it a day by saying none of that matters because it might be fun. Which is pretty much saying a whole lot of nothing with a whole lot of words. I mean, I can't decide your opinion for you, but for a video discussing an upcoming film in a decades-old franchise, you might have wanted to do a little bit of digging before implying the American films were invalidating the original. Just a quick Google search would have sufficed. But hey, not everyone is a kaiju-obsessed weirdo, and I like Drinker's other videos well enough. But goddamn, are you confusing when you don't know what you're saying. So in conclusion, this video could have been better if you'd just been paying attention. But I do look forward to the inevitable review you put out that may or may not be a retread of this one. At the end of the day though, no matter what your opinion on this trailer is, there is one certainty when it comes to Godzilla vs. Kong. That chunky lizard is gonna beat the shit out of that stupid monkey, and Kong cucks are gonna be seething when they realize it was Mechagodzilla the whole time.